Welcome back to The Nation, and we have David Shearer, leader of the Labour Party, with us in studio. Mr Shearer, earlier this week with the job losses at Spring Creek Mine, Stephen Joyce came out and he said he wanted everybody to pull back on their court action on the Denniston Plateau. He said there were 228 jobs there and the miners from Spring Creek could in essence be placed in that mine at Denniston Plateau and keep those jobs going. Do you agree with that? Should the court action be stopped on the Denniston Plateau? Well,
first of all, Stephen Joyce, this is typical political diversion. You have a huge number of job losses that are going to really affect Greymouth profoundly. And what he comes out with is a diversion about another mine somewhere else. The Denniston Plateau is going through the resource consent process. That's the way it should go, and it shouldn't be. And we have nothing to do with it. We are not stopping or standing in the way of that process going through, and we accept what the process comes out with.
But you know full well, Mr Shearer, that if Labour was to get together with the EPMU and the Green Party and call off those litigants, that would have a major impact.
Actually, that's not true at all, John. I mean, we can't get together with anybody that's objecting to that mine. This is a process that's going through. We will accept the process and the outcome of the process, whatever it comes out to be. We're not going to be politically involved in it.
Isn't there something wrong with the process that's taking over 2 years and costing a company hundreds of millions of dollars, according to that company?
Well, that could be a problem with the process, but it's got nothing to do with Stephen Joyce saying suddenly to take attention off the fact that his selling of Solid Energy is actually going to be responsible for closing down Spring Creek Mine, to turn his attention on here and say, Labor, it's your fault for not calling off.
But it's a valid question for the Labour Party, isn't it? I mean, do you think the Resource Management Act needs sharpening?
Well, the Resource Management Act is there obviously to balance off our economic and our interest and our environmental interest. And obviously, as a country that has prided itself on being clean and green, we need to make sure that goes through the right process.
But now, 2 years is too long.
Sometimes it could be long, but actually 2 years in something this large, I'm not qualified to say whether in fact it's too long or not, but something this large might in fact be a reasonable length of time. But the point is, it's a process, and if there's a problem with the process, then change the process. Mr Joyce, you're in government. Change the process, but don't come to the Labour Party and say somehow that we're blocking mining.
And saying that, Labour was essentially born in the mines, though. You were a party of the oppressed and the downtrodden. Do you still believe the Labour Party stands by that principle, each according to their abilities to each according to their needs, that famous principle? Oh, absolutely. I mean, that is a core value of the Labour Party. And one of the things we stand up for, of course, is good jobs. And good jobs, 350 of them are actually good jobs, are going in Greymouth as a result of the Spring Creek mine closing down. So that's part of who we are. But I think we're talking about something else, and according to this process around mining. How do you reconcile then that with that sort of traditional compassionate approach that Labour has taken towards people, with a more hardened line, if you like, on issues like welfare? The man on the roof who's ripping off the country. How do you reconcile those two sides of Labour?
There's no problem there. Our welfare system is based on a social contract. The social contract works. You work, you pay your taxes, and then when you need it, you lose your job, you have an accident, the state looks after you. As soon as you're able to get back onto your feet again, their expectation is that you go back and you start paying your way again. That's the social contract. Now, if that is broken at either end, somebody avoiding paying their taxes or somebody not bludging or doing whatever they're doing at the other end, then that's an issue of fairness. And New Zealanders are very concerned about fairness, and we need to make sure that system works like as a contract.
Mr Shearer, I put it to you that there is a problem reconciling those two, because your activists were very unhappy when you made that comment. Your activist base were very unhappy with you when you made that comment about the man on the roof.
No, I don't think there is any.
They said you were taking the party in a direction towards the centre.
Well, you will read the speech. The speech that I gave is about fairness, and it is about a social contract, and it is about paying your way and living up to your responsibilities at the other end. That's all it was. And New Zealanders are very, very attuned to somebody doing the right thing, whether it be paying their taxes or not taking advantage of the welfare system.
Just on that, is Labour's position to be in the centre? Because I'll read you a quote, and that was, "Nearly 1 million voters deserted us at the last election. those voters saw our policies, with the exception of asset sales, were the same as Nationals. Now, would you agree with that?
No, I don't. I think, and I would say that right now, and we were talking about it in the first segment about where we are taking the economy along, innovation, high tech, much more interventionist economy is very, very different to where National is going.
Right, because that was David Cunliffe's New Lynn speech that quote was from. He thinks the party should really go further towards the left. Do you think it should stay in the centre where Phil Goff and Annette King took it?
No, I think the Labor Party is a broad church. There are many people who vote Labor from what you might call left and to the right as well. It's a broad church, and what we're looking for is to be a party for all New Zealanders, not just one or the other.
So where does David Cunliffe fit then? He's more left.
No, I think this is a false dichotomy. I mean, David Cunliffe is the economic development spokesperson. He's just been in Scandinavia looking at the clean tech and many of the innovative industries and how they do it there. It fits very well within where I want to take the Labor Party. David Parker has just been in the United States looking at monetary policy. It's about looking for the direction for Labor to move New Zealand
into the future. You say it's a broad church, though, but you've got different people in different areas of centre-left or extreme left.
No, you don't. I mean, it is a broad church, but in our party, those people talking about those issues are talking about issues that are a real concern to New Zealanders, all New Zealanders.
Well, one of the issues where the party seems a little unsure of itself, and I think that this dichotomy actually is showing, is on in education, where you're talking about making national standards voluntary. Well, if you make national standards voluntary, they're not national standards anymore, are they?
Well, Labor has always been the party of education. Let's start there. All of the major innovations in education have come from the Labor Party that have been the positive ones. We agree that parents should have clear reporting about how their children progress in clear language, and that we should be setting targets for achievement. The thing about national standards that we don't like is that the information that around national standards is junk. It's been put into
junk according to the unions.
Well, actually, that's not true. Actually, the information cannot be moderated across schools, so you can't compare one school to another. And then it's put into a league table, and the league table itself
who's made league tables?
Well, Fairfax, for example.
Well, who's top ranked in that league table, Mr. Shearer?
I haven't looked at your league table.
Well, how is it a league table if they're not ranked?
Well, because everybody looks at those schools to see how their school is doing compared to another school. Now, I don't believe that one school, because a school is in, for example, a decile 1 school, where kids perhaps come to school with less than they would in a decile 10 school, where they come to school possibly as an old school of mine my old school that I went to, come to school with no English, and then advance through that to go to the right level that they should be at, and then you compare it against a decile 10 school that perhaps only just moves their kids as much as they should be. Now, this school is a great school. This school is not working as hard as it should be, and yet this school will be seen as a failure because perhaps the kids aren't getting to the right level.
Do those teacher unions have too much influence in the Labor Party? I mean, are they holding you back in terms of where you might like to go on education policy?
This is not about teacher unions, John. This is about good education policy. It's as simple as that.
Mr. Shearer, your background is in humanitarian work, where you have nurtured and sheltered people, where there's been racial issues, ethnic divides, political unrest, war zones. And now you're in an environment where it's New Zealand politics. It's aggressive. There's people always trying to kneecap you. There's bloggers trying to criticise you. Do you struggle a little bit with that very aggressive approach?
No, I don't. I don't read bloggers, so that eliminates that particular problem. I don't respond to them either. It's a different environment, but it's not a foreign environment. There were certainly times in my past where I was facing real challenges, and there are real challenges obviously in this job as well.
How does it sit with you in Parliament though? It's pretty aggressive. People yelling, people standing up, people pointing the fingers, people being, pretty critical of you at times.
Well, look, nobody likes to be criticised, but that just comes with the territory. I don't have a problem with that. But what I will say is that as a politician, I will not be a politician that personally goes after my opponent. I'll play the ball and not the man.
Okay, how long have you given yourself to get it right before you would consider relinquishing the role?
Well, 2014 was what I'm aiming for, and to be Prime Minister in 2014 and leading the Labor Party into government.
You're down in the polls, though, for preferred Prime Minister. You're around 12% in the latest poll. The Prime Minister around 44%. Given those figures, can you lead Labor to victory in 2014?
But you forgot to mention the other part of the polling, which is the party has gone from 27% up to 33,
That's right.
34%.
So the party is up, but you're not as preferred Prime Minister.
It's one of these things. Polling is useful to look at trends and where things are going, but we have come up 6-7 points in the past few weeks, few months. That's a pretty good effort. We have come up twice as much as anybody else in the polls. So the fact that we are getting up to where we should be is good.
Could you work with Russell Norman as your Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister?
I think that's going to be up to the voters who comes in as our coalition partner.
Would David Parker accept that?
We haven't even discussed that, let alone even thought about it, actually.
And you gave your front bench a year to show themselves. Do you think they're performing, given the polls?
We're doing well, and I think we're taking the key issues to the country that are important to people. I mean, it's in and around jobs, it's around education, and obviously the economy. And I think actually the standard and ethics of government, I think that's a worry for people as well, given what we've just seen. I think we're doing well. Will we have some changes later on? Quite possibly.
Before the end of the year for a reshuffle?
I'm not going to say, John.
But you're looking at it?
Certainly looking at where we can improve. Obviously, you would be, you would want to do that.
Where do you think you can improve?
I'll tell you a bit later on.
All right. Labor leader David Shearer, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us.